I'm Shannon Martin. Tonight, just as students, teachers, and parents across the province were getting ready to return to school tomorrow, a winter storm could mean yet another delay to in-person learning for some.
Should we need to cancel buses and close schools to in-person learning tomorrow, we will be moving to remote learning.
Which school boards are warning they'll go virtual, and when can parents expect to get a final answer? We'll have what you need to know.
They're probably, adding maybe 2 air changes per hour to the classroom, and we'd like to see a higher number.
Meantime, questions still remain about how to keep students safe, with some saying the province's plans for ventilation just isn't enough. Plus, the remains of 4 people have been found at the site of that explosion in Ottawa earlier this week. Why officials say right now it's just too dangerous to attempt a recovery.
This is CBC Late Night News.
Hello, thanks for joining us. After all that pent-up anticipation and worry ahead of students heading back to class tomorrow, the weather seems to have other plans. We'll get to your stormy forecast in a moment. But first, Delia Ashray has our top story, with many school boards in Ontario warning in-person learning may be delayed again.
Many parents are eager to have their kids back in class tomorrow.
No matter what we have to do to make sure they get back into class.
But a hefty snowfall is expected across southern Ontario. Monday might be starting off on a slippery slope for parents and kids. At least one school board in Ottawa has made the move to continue with remote learning tomorrow. Others are still undecided.
Should we need to cancel buses and close schools to in-person learning tomorrow as a result of the weather, we will be moving to remote learning.
The Toronto District School Board is not only keeping its eye on the weather, but Omicron as well.
We do know that on days of severe weather in normal times, students and staff cannot always make it into school. And as a result, we have combined classes. We can't do that amid COVID-19. We can't combine these classes in different cohorts.
TDSB and several other school boards say they'll make the call around 6 a.m. And for those who are relying on public transportation, Metrolink says it's ensuring everyone has a safe and warm ride.
Snow melting machines underneath the platforms, making sure the trains are warmed up ahead of time and our other vehicles are warmed up ahead of time. Crews come in early so that they won't be late, because they'll be commuting as well during a snowstorm. So we do all of those things.
So no matter how you plan to hit the road tomorrow, whether it's a bus, bike, or car, the City of Toronto is working on making sure all roads and sidewalks are safe.
We will be sending out all of our road salting equipment, and we'll be sending out our sidewalk equipment at around 2 centimeters. When snow begins to accumulate, then we'll begin to send out our road plows.
He's reminding people to drive slowly and keep a safe distance from crews on the road. Delia Ashray, CBC News, Toronto.
Okay, let's head outside. Here's a live look right now at Toronto's Harbour Cam. Things are looking calm right now, but you know they can change quickly. That's why we have our Colette Kennedy in with us tonight, tracking the storm. What are you seeing right now, Colette?
Oh, so much happening just as this is starting to come in now, Shannon. So we're seeing reporting stations through the Niagara region, even at Pearson, reporting some light snow. So it's beginning to move in. Once it really comes in past midnight, we're going to see those precipitation rates really heading up. And as they do, it's not necessarily a matter of how many crews are out there or how good a job they can do. Sometimes you can just get that rate of snowfall coming down that it's too hard to get in front of it and to stay on top of it. And so certainly it's going to be difficult on those main roads, but the side roads, especially as we head towards the morning hours. So the winter storm warning was extended to include Toronto. You can see all these areas in red towards the Niagara region as well, and into eastern Ontario, all the way up towards the nation's capital. This is where we're looking at some of the highest amounts from that Niagara region stretching up there past Kingston and into Ottawa. But we also have snowfall warnings and then winter weather travel advisories. So tomorrow, overnight tonight and tomorrow are not going to be good travel days. Heavier snow early in the day, and then in the afternoon, winds ramping up, so blowing that snow around. So in both cases, visibility reduced and slick roadways. This is it as it's trickling in, but it won't be trickling for long. As I say, as we get kind of towards 2, 3 a.m., we'll start to see some of those rapidly falling and building up accumulations. I also just want to show you how broad this particular storm is. And it was over in the northern plains, dipped all the way down towards Florida. It's got a lot of moisture, what we call precipitable moisture, that it can work with. So it can turn that into snow. We know we had that cold air yesterday, so that ingredient is there as well. Now, this is not everywhere in this region. We're going to see 40 plus, but I am just showing you some core areas where there will locally be over 40 centimeters. Back towards the city, it's quite likely we could get 30 centimeters. And then it drops off very, very, very quickly. It kind of drops off as you head westward. We're going to take a closer look at these accumulations and the timeline when I come back, Shannon.
Okay, thanks, Colette. We're so glad to have you with us tonight.
You're welcome.
So yes, all that snow could mean kids aren't back to in-person learning just yet. But whenever they return, we know enhanced ventilation is part of Ontario's plan to keep them safe. The province says it sent out more than 70,000 Hep A filters, but just how effective are they? Here's Dale Minukduk.
No, we don't, but we can talk when we're eating.
That's just about the only thing Emily Materek's 6-year-old twins like about virtual class. They'll be doing it for at least another week, waiting for their second doses of vaccine to generate an immune response. In Toronto, over 50% of kids aged 5 to 11 have now received at least one dose.
I and my partner struggled with this for quite a bit because having them home is not great.
She's concerned primarily about testing and contact tracing. The Toronto District School Board, which her kids attend, announced they'll continue to directly inform impacted classes of confirmed cases. One thing parents shouldn't have to worry about is improved ventilation. The province says 100% of schools have made upgrades. That includes tens of thousands of HEPA filters meant to remove respiratory particles circulating in the air.
I think HEPA filters are a fine idea. I don't think HEPA filters are absolutely necessary for going back to school, but I think that they will decrease transmission.
They're a lot better than nothing.
Jeffrey Siegel is a professor at the University of Toronto, specializing in indoor air quality and ventilation.
They're probably, adding maybe 2 or 1.5 air changes per hour to the classroom, and we'd like to see a higher number than that.
Siegel says the ideal number is 6, which some schools may achieve already with existing systems and no HEPA filters. He believes in some cases a classroom with poor ventilation would need upwards of 3 to have the desired impact.
You might think about putting, one near the teacher and one kind of in the center of the students.
The province says it has allocated over $600 million to school boards over the last year to improve ventilation and filtration to ensure schools are safe. Dr. Jeffrey Pernica, head of infectious diseases at McMaster Children's Hospital, says schools might be the most safe for kids. That's because the Omicron variant has already spread rapidly outside of schools.
I don't think there will be a dramatic decrease in the hospitalizations of adults by keeping schools closed. And for that reason, because children have much to benefit from being in school and less to risk, right? I think that is the safest choice.
Parents need to do whatever they feel is best to keep their children safe and whatever safe means to them.
Dale Minukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
Doctors say it may be impossible to ever address all concerns about COVID in the classroom and that it may be time to look at the risk differently.
No perfect path forward. You see different provinces trying to navigate the least bad path forward. Obviously, regardless, there are going to be cases in schools.
We are working more towards treating COVID similar to other cold and flu viruses that we have in the past.
The province says it will provide 2 rapid test kits to every Ontario student when they return to in-person learning. The City of Toronto says 50% of kids ages 5 to 11 now have their first shot. To help boost that number even higher, a pop-up clinic was held today for students and teachers in the GTA.
We need to do whatever we can do to safely get kids and teachers back to school safely. and that's why today is so important.
The event was organized by Kicks Care. That's an online kids health clinic. The pop-up in Vaughan this morning offered both first and second doses to school-aged children, as well as boosters for teachers.
The kids and their comfort, it's nice to say that, mom and dad or grandma and grandpa are getting vaccinated and I'm getting vaccinated too.
Well, this was just a one-day event. Organizers encourage kids and adults to get vaccinated if they haven't done so already. Well, for parents with younger kids, little ones under the age of 5 who cannot be vaccinated, it is a real struggle right now. Earlier, I talked to Amy O'Neill. She's a daycare operator in Toronto. She kept her center closed for the last 2 weeks, keeping in line with schools. Now it's set to reopen tomorrow. I asked her how she's feeling.
It's very overwhelming. I'm feeling very nervous and very scared about potential outbreaks. I'm anticipating that we will have outbreaks this week already when we return. Our young children, our 2.5-year-olds, are unmasked, unvaccinated. Many of my staff still haven't received their 3rd dose, so I'm scared about people getting sick.
We had heard the education minister said by the time schools would be reopening by now, there'd be the N95 masks, there'd be the filters, and there'd be the rapid test. But you're saying you haven't received the rapid tests yet.
Right. So we received our N95 masks. We didn't receive nearly enough. We only have 1 per staff per day for a maximum of 7 days. There's been no delivery of any rapid antigen tests, no delivery of any HEPA filters, no way to contact the ministry to find out how and when to receive them. So if a child or staff have symptoms tomorrow, they will have to self-isolate for 5 days and assume that they are COVID positive.
There's a lot of stress for parents too. You're feeling it. What are you hearing from parents?
So many of our families are making very difficult decisions right now about whether or not to have their children return to care due to safety and health and safety concerns. I've had at least 6 parents over the weekend either call me or email me to let me know that they will be withdrawing their children for at least the time being.
Is there any other things that could help childcare operators?
So right now, what's needed for childcare centers in the province of Ontario is immediate access to PCR testing for children and staff, immediate access to rapid antigen testing, N95 masks, HEPA filters, and also one thing that hasn't been talked about is we're in desperate need of stability funding, because right now many childcare operators are on the brink financially, because with closure after closure and no state safe restart funding or no stability funding and no parent fees, it means we're operating currently with 0 revenue. And we are an essential service, and we've been an afterthought for this government. And it's very disheartening for frontline staff who are doing the very best job that they can under extremely challenging circumstances to not be given the respect that they deserve.
Thank you. Good luck this week and all the best.
Good luck with you with your little ones as well.
Thank you.
That was Amy O'Neill. She's the executive director at Treetop Children's Centre in Toronto. A resident of Toronto's largest homeless shelter has died after testing positive for COVID-19. Seton House currently has 36 active cases. No further details are known about the victim tonight. The death comes as 50 shelters across the city are struggling with outbreaks, with more than 400 active cases among unhoused people staying at shelters. Well, in other news tonight, new research out of the University of Toronto to tell you about. It says predominantly Black neighborhoods are disproportionately impacted by homicides, but have the least amount of support for survivors. Now there's a new interactive tool that breaks down where the killings are happening and how few supports are available for communities.
If you don't count the number of homicide victims and then consider the ripple effect and the disproportionate impact of homicide on Black communities, then we're almost re-victimizing them.
The research also looks at the social factors around homicide. The findings come as Toronto sees a violent start to the new year, 6 homicides in just over 2 weeks. We have much more on that story on our website. And coming up next, families in mourning after the remains of 4 people were found at that site of an explosion in Ottawa.
She was a great human being who had a heart of gold and loved every single person in her life to the ends of the world.
How cold and dangerous conditions are slowing recovery efforts. That's next. Welcome back. Officials in Ottawa still don't know the cause of Thursday's massive explosion at a tanker trailer facility, but we do know more about some of the people who died. Travis Danraj has more.
I would just tell her that I love her.
Words Maria Ferguson wishes she could say one last time to a cousin she considered a sister.
She was a great human being who had a heart of gold and loved every single person in her life to the ends of the world.
Kayla Ferguson was a welder at Eastway Pump and Motor, a career she loved. She was on the job at the truck tank manufacturer when the site was hit with a massive explosion. The scope of the damage clear from new aerial images released by investigators. Much of the scene still too dangerous to access.
The cold, the site conditions, the size of the area, and the magnitude of the blast have created challenges.
Those challenges are mounting. A storm is expected to dump up to 40 centimeters of snow on the Ottawa area tonight. The fire department is rushing to protect the site.
These large tents will help protect the evidence that's exposed to the elements.
Remains of 4 people have been found, but it's still too dangerous to recover and identify them. In all, 6 people are believed to have died, including Rick Bastian, a husband and father just 3 years from retirement. Etienne Mabila, he had 2 daughters and a wife he would call every lunch hour. And 29-year-old electrician Danny Beal.
Just miss his big hug.
His sister Megan says the hardest part is thinking about the life her brother had ahead of him and knowing he'll never meet her new daughter.
Danny would have been devastated to see his coworkers and his friends have to go through something like this.
It could take weeks for investigators to identify a cause, if at all. The sheer force of the blast could make it impossible. As loved ones wait for answers, a memorial has been set up at a safe distance where they can remember those lost. Travis Danraj, CBC News, Ottawa.
To the U.S. next, where officials are trying to find out why a British man targeted a synagogue in Texas, taking 4 people hostage. The standoff lasting 10 hours before coming to a dramatic ending last night when police stormed the place of worship, shooting and killing the suspect. They have not released a name. All of the hostages are safe. One of the world's biggest tennis tournaments is getting underway without one of its biggest stars. Novak Djokovic has been kicked out of Australia, deported after court dismissed his challenge to the cancellation of his visa, all because he's unvaccinated. Australia's Prime Minister welcomed the ruling, saying it would help keep the borders strong. A new neighborhood skating rink opened this weekend in Toronto.
We build it before Christmas so that we're ready, and then as soon as it gets cold, we try to blitz as quick as we can to build up those layers.
The rink, all thanks to volunteers. We'll hear all about the community project right after this. Okay, before all the winter storm weather, it was a beautiful, little chilly day to lace up the skates and hit the ice. In Toronto, a natural ice rink is keeping one neighborhood active, and it's all thanks to a group of dedicated volunteers. Take a look.
I like it outside because
I like outdoor.
because you can play with everything. Sometimes you know who's out here, but sometimes you can make friends out here too.
Also, it's just the atmosphere is really nice being outdoors.
Yeah, we all live like a block away, so it's
really close.
We can all just walk here. We're not even out here for like 3 hours.
The rink itself, we build it before Christmas so that we're ready, and then as soon as it gets cold, we try to blitz as quick as we can to build up those layers. The volunteer group that builds the rink, we're called the Soror Park Hosers, and we're a continuously growing group. We're at least 50 plus active hosers.
There's a lot of great city rinks as well, but something special about the community volunteer effort at this rink.
So we have a two-pad rink here. It's quite big. It's 100 by 100, and we've got it separated into pleasure skating and hockey skating. So that way we can get both environments and a whole range of people coming to use the rink.
Always been something that everyone looks forward to is the rink building and the maintenance by the hosers. Whenever people see the fire hoses out, they know the rink's going to be ready to go in a few hours. So
I guess for me personally, when I started this, my eldest was only 2 years old, and now I've got 3 skaters here. So it's an investment in the community, and everybody helps out.
Okay, here's a live look at Ottawa. We know at least one school board there so far has canceled in-person learning for tomorrow. So Colette, parents are going to be listening to the radio, checking Twitter in the morning because, yeah, it's going to be messy.
Yeah, and I'll be with everyone on Ontario Morning and Metro Morning, and we'll give you updates. But I'll tell you, I don't think there'll be many kids, I'm sorry to say, going back to school. I know everyone does not have the option. If you have the option, I would stay home tomorrow. We're talking about snowfall rates, and it's going to be around 3 a.m. even till about 8 a.m. that are going to be 3 to 5 centimeters an hour. And actually, that will extend a little later than that towards the Ottawa Valley, towards about 10 a.m., where you're going to see those heavier snowfall amounts. Also, just since we went on the air, we've seen that winter weather travel advisory upgraded to a snowfall warning. That's back towards Woodstock and for St. Thomas as well, and certainly the areas here, including the GTA and up towards the nation's capital, in a winter storm warning. This is the system as it's moving in, so we're starting to have lots of areas, Kingston stretching around back towards London, Kitchener, where we're seeing that light snow developing. It will not stay light for long, intensifies. I've put a few communities on here because I want to show you certainly Hamilton, but especially Grimsby over to St. Catharines, some of the heavier amounts here right through the Niagara region, but then also as we get to the east of the GTA, so Port Hope over towards Belleville and Trenton, Tyendinaga, and through Napanee and Quinte West, and these regions on towards Kingston, and then up towards the nation's capital, Renfrew, Tweed, through these areas. You're going to be looking at some of these target areas. I'm not saying everyone's going to get exactly what we're seeing here, but these are the areas with that risk of more than 40 centimeters, and certainly that possibility as well back towards that Niagara region. So the timing on this, heaviest stuff in the morning, but it will carry on into tomorrow afternoon, and the winds will be blowing it around then. So just terrible conditions to be on the road completely if you can avoid it.
Yes, thanks, Colette. We appreciate you so much being here tonight. We're going to be listening to you bright and early in the morning. That's our show for tonight. Hopefully you're watching from home. Hunker down. Stay safe, everyone. We hope you have a great night. You can stay caught up on news anytime on our website, cbcnews.ca. We hope you have a great and safe night.